Welcome, Gemini, to your Scorpio full moon, 2 week deep dive forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. Across the 1st or the 2nd of May, the Scorpio full moon at 11 degrees 20 goes face to face with the sun in the practical sign of Taurus. We know that full moons can create a lot of intensity, and Scorpio full moons have quite the reputation for that. But as much as we can talk about that generally, each lunation has its own unique identity. I'm going to share on screen with you, from a purely Gemini perspective, what you can expect over the next fortnight in terms of energy, work, relationships, and finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. So there is the position of the moon. But for you, it's in house 6. So the moon in the 6th house can get quite caught up with trying to make sure that the environment that we live in is well ordered and organized. But it's very much about practicalities. So when it comes to your professional situation, for example, you may be doing your best to make sure that everything is just so. However, because this is very much about the physical realm, particularly to do with our energy, it's important to understand the sun is in the part of its journey through the sky, which is very much to do with reflection and can be to do with the more psychological, spiritual, and healing dimensions. And if all your focus at the moment is going into that practical realm and you're not quite staying mindful about how it all feels, that's what this full moon can bring up. Further, when it comes to work, the energy of the moon in the 6th house suggests that people that you work with could be quite critical, almost micromanaging what you do over the next 2 weeks, which can create a sense of uncertainty or even backbiting. But feeding into this particular lunation is the power of Pluto. It's in a broad T square with both the sun and the moon, but it's in the 9th house. And the 9th house is very much about higher truths. And Pluto's about power, but it can also be about revelations. There may be something rather tender around trying to balance that more spiritual, psychological, emotional dimension with that more practical and earthy, worldly dimension, the 6th house, that could come up very potently. However, if you can trust the process, the North Node in the part of your chart to do with your connection to the world at large through to the end of July, the true North Node, is in a very healing relationship with these guys. So it's all about balance. Essentially, lunations ask us to make sure we're well aligned. And usually, for many of us, there's something that we can change just to get things a little bit more in trim. But what about your ruling planets? Because that is Mercury. And ironically, on this event, Mercury is in a conjunction with Chiron, the so-called wounded healer. So if you do find yourself feeling very drained, your energy is very low, you feel perhaps a bit ratty or irritable, or you might feel a little bit defensive, there may be something that does need looking at, and it may be to do with a vulnerability or a fear. But if you can own that and integrate that into your daily routines, get better rest, make sure that you're doing the right kind of exercise, tighten up on the food and nutrients that you're eating, this can actually be perhaps somewhat of a healing crisis, but one that can help you by the end of the fortnight to feel much stronger and more robust. Now, there are some other factors. The ruler of the sign of Taurus, where the sun is now in your zodiac sign and actually forging a brilliant link to Saturn, but also Pluto. Let's break that into two. With Uranus now arrived in your sign along with Venus, it is a time to recast your identity in some kind of dynamic way. And maybe is a lot of people are beating a path to your door and wanting to spend time with you, or you're finding that your energies your mental energies are racing at such a speed with lots of brilliant ideas, it's difficult to switch off. But if there is something that you're planning for your longer term, which feels right, it may be a relationship. The connection between Venus and Saturn and Venus and Pluto suggests there could be some very constructive conversations that could come up through this full moon that actually can be very positive. But when it comes to finance, everyday finance, Jupiter continues to be very potentially helpful right through to the end of June. But that's in a square with Mars on this event. The implication is whatever you're trying to realign, you don't try too hard, particularly if you are using those ideas you've got at the moment, which could be very inspirational. If you're really buying into those in a big way, try to slow it down a little bit because overconfidence could actually be an issue. So I think your overall chart at the moment, Gemini, is very constructive, but I think you're just being asked to make sure that you're not too much up in your head, that you're not ignoring some emotional or psychological demands or needs, that you're not fearful of perhaps integrating that part of your situation into your physical realm. But when it comes to work, if you do work for someone else, I do think it's possible that there can be some backbiting. So make sure that you don't give any of your potential rivals or critics any little snippets to seize on that they may use against you. Now, I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances next. But just to say, Gemini, I've slashed the price of my personal horoscopes. You can now get three for the price of one. You order your life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that are played out in your life so far, but also get a more intimate understanding of working with those energies better future forwards. But you get free your 12 months transit forecast and also your draconic soul karmic analysis. Why? Because I feel that natal astrology can really help us to guide our way through this journey. And it's been amazing for me personally. I want to share that with you. But also, I recognize that people are feeling the pinch. Now, if you've yet to watch your May monthly forecast on the screen now, or your Uranus into Gemini 1 year forecast on the screen. If you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning for your cosmic early day pit stop. Do take advantage of that and sign up below. And if you'd like to work with me personally, please check out my testimonials. It's a pleasure. So, to summarize, I think professionally, if you work in an environment which is quite fast moving and maybe the atmosphere is not so great, do watch your back a little bit over the next 2 weeks. If, however, you're someone who's much more entrepreneurial, you're a free spirit and you're focusing on some exciting plans at the moment, make sure you do get some rest. When it comes to your romantic situation, however, maybe is the full moon can bring up some issues that haven't been spoken about. But if that does happen, just trust the process that you're going through because they're better ventilated. And it could actually, once the air's cleared with Venus in such a strong link with Saturn, if you take the initiative to guide things, I think it could be a time when naturally the full moon can see the relationship get stronger. When it comes to your physical energy, I think that Saturn in that 11th house suggests, you know, you're probably going to be quite a lot in demand at the present time, especially around your social situation. But the sun's saying it's also important to get rest and recuperation. Have a great Scorpio full moon. Thank you so much for joining me, Gemini, and look forward to seeing you again soon.